Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson on the metric system. Alright, so today we'll be working with converting between different metric measurements like meters to kilometers, millimeters, centimeters, all that kind of stuff. And next lesson we'll learn about the imperial system. Alright, but for now, here's the metric system. Alright, most of the scientific community in the world, or just most of the world in general, uses the metric system. Alright, we call it the SI system. Are you ready for this? You know what SI stands for? International System. So yes, SI stands for International System. Why is it not IS? I have no idea. But here we are, the SI system, or the International System. Okay, so we got a metric. Right, well, a lot of construction industries in North America, right, or especially in the US, right, they use the imperial system. And of course, us Canadians, we use a mix of both. Right, in the grocery store, we buy banana by the pounds. My height is 5 feet 8, whereas our speed on the road is 70 kilometers per hour, and our temperature is what's today giving? It's giving 23 degrees Celsius, right? Probably, but we use 400 degrees Fahrenheit in our oven, so Canada system's a mess, but that's why you gotta know how to convert it back and forth. That's the next lesson issue though. But for this lesson, just a quick little overview of all the measurements. Milligrams, used for mass. I don't like blue, let's do yellow here. Yeah. Mass. You will see milligrams in things like medication. Take this many milligrams of ibuprofen. And spices. You shouldn't be adding grams of salt into anything. It should be milligrams at most. Of course, all things to do with gram, like the gram and a kilogram, or weight, or mass. In grams, there are things like bags of chips, or bulk candy. If you go to bulk barn, a lot of things are measured in grams. If you go to Costco, it'll be in kilograms. Speaking of kilograms, those are for heavier things like watermelons. I love watermelons. And luggage. If you go flying, you have to cram everything into a suitcase, but it has to be less than 23 kilos for checking and 7 kilos for carry-on. As of right now, at least. Hopefully it gets higher, but you never know. Next is the liters. Milliliters and liters, they're used to measure volume. How much stuff is there? Milliliters are things for like pop. Kind of iced tea, kind of Coke, whatnot. Or for milk, right? Those like small carton milk you see in school cafeterias, usually around 300 milligrams. Of course, for liters, it can be also used for milk. Those are the things you see in grocery store, like the big jugs. Right, or gas. Right, my gas tank is 60 liters. Okay, and then we have the meters. Right, meters, millimeters, centimeters, and kilometers, all distance. Millimeter are super small. Used for things like snow and rain. Right, it's raining like 30 millimeters, 20 millimeters, all that. For pencil lead. How thick a pencil lead is. For centimeters, it's 10 times as big as a milliliter. Right? It's used for snow in Alberta, probably. Alright, when it snows a lot, we'll have to switch to centimeters. I doubt we'll ever get centimeter. Well, we probably will get centimeters of snow in British Columbia, but not as often as Alberta or Toronto or even like into the Northern Territories. I had centimeters of rain in Asia a few times during the monsoon season. Not very fun. There's also height. I'm 5'8", which is around 172 centimeters. Okay, meters. Right, so those are for athletic events. I did not spell that right. Athletic. Athletic. So very commonly you'll see the dashes like 400-meter dash, 400-meter relay. Right? And also for things like pool length and depths. Right? The deep end is around 4 to 3 meters. Right? We have the 800-meter swim, like 400-meter butterfly kick, that kind of stuff. Kilometers are big. Things like driving. Driving from here to Abbotsford is probably, I don't know. How long would it be? 30, 40 kilometers? I don't know. Probably. Or like running. Of course, as Canadians, we use time, right? Wait, Canadians. How far are you from the school? Oh, I'm like 40 minutes away. Right. Oh, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Right. We always use time whenever we use driving distances. I may be around the world too, but I know for sure as Canadians we use that a lot. Like, because we have to rely on cars so much. Okay. So now, of course, we can convert between the two. Or all of them, actually. Right, so 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, as you can see on the rulers. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. Alright, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. Okay, so when we convert, we use conversion factors. So let's say, for example, let's convert 172 centimeters, which is my height, into meters. So what we want to do is set up a fraction. Alright, the unit on the top is what we want to convert to, and the unit on the bottom is what we want to cancel out. Right, so we want to convert 2 meters from centimeters. Right, because then when you multiply it, the units will cancel out. Okay, and then from there, we find a conversion factor. We know 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So, it's 1 over 100. Right, from there, the unit want to cancel out gets cancelled out. The unit want to convert to stays. So, we have 172 meters over 100. 172 divided by 100 is 1.72 meters. Okay, remember, when we divide by 100, right, well, any zeros, we're just moving decimal places. Right, the decimal's here, we move 2 spaces to the left. Because it's 2 zeros. Alright, let's convert a bunch. 250 into centimeters. So, convert from millimeters to centimeters. We know 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. So, right, 1 centimeter, 10 millimeters. Those two will cancel out. 250 divided by 10 is just 25 centimeters. Okay, centimeters into millimeters. Cancel out the centimeter, convert into millimeter. Once again, it's 1 centimeter for 10 millimeters. So now this time we multiply. Units cancel out. 400 times 10. 4,000. Okay. Uh-oh, decimals. No worries. Convert from meters to millimeters. We know there's... Oops, my head's broken away. 1,000 centimeters, or 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. Cancel, cancel. So this times 1,000. Right, we moved the decimal places by 3. We got empty gapping here, so we're putting a 0. Right, 35,000. Oops, don't forget the unit. 670. More decimals. Millimeter into centimeter. We know 1 centimeter for every 10 millimeters. Cancel, cancel. 0.8 divided by 10. Move the decimal 1 to the left because we're dividing. 0.08 centimeters. Meters into kilometer. A 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Cancel, cancel. Kilometer, whoopsie. So 3 zeros, so 3 decimals to the left. Will be there. 219.83. Right, we don't need the 0 at the end because it's under a decimal. Right, don't worry about significant numbers. Okay, how about this? Kilometers and millimeters. Right, we do not have a direct conversion, but we can always just convert it twice. You can do kilometers into meters first. Right, 1 and 1,000. And then meters into millimeters. Okay, because we can cancel, cancel, and then cancel, cancel. So we are left with millimeters at the end. Times 1,000 twice. So we got 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, comma, comma. That's a lot of millimeters. Hopefully, this doesn't ever come up. Hopefully you don't have to worry about converting kilometers into millimeters, but that's something useful to have. Then, oh, how far is the drive? Oh, it's 23 million millimeters away. Okay. Next, what's the area in centimeters? Right, as you can see, nothing's in centimeters, so we gotta convert it. Alright. Millimeters into centimeters. So you got 1 over 10, which is just 400 centimeters. Kilometers into millimeters. I lied, I guess we did this again. So current to meters first. And the millimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. Right. So we got the length and the width. The area is just length times the width. 400 times 2 mil. 2 times 4 is 8, followed by 2 zeros here and 6 zeros here. So it's 8 zeros. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom, boom. Centimeters squared. Okay, there we go. Right, so always make sure to be in the same units. We cannot multiply 4,000 millimeters by 2 kilometers, but we could do 400 centimeters by 2 million centimeters. Okay, so that's it for our unit conversion metric systems. Right, those are a bit easier because we're working with tens and hundreds and all. But with the imperial systems, we got all the decimals to work with, so that'll be fun next lesson. So with that being said, good luck practicing.